Hello, everyone, and welcome to this first live broadcast of the Great Global Healing Party. I'm Dr. Wendy Rowley, the inspiration for the Great Global Healing Party. And I'd like to say a few things first. Um, I was going to have astrologer Carmen Turner Schote with us, but she is currently getting ready to move, and her time got a little mixed up. And she might provide a video that we'll put on the website, but she will be joining us in the June solstice. And she has signed on to be the Great Global Healing Party astrologer. But with that big house move of hers and her own other work and her other groups, she just was overwhelmed. So I'm sorry that we had a false start with that information. What I'd like to share about the spring equinox time and why it's such a profound time for healing ancestral energy is that there is, in the December solstice, a big infusion of the Christ energy coming into the earth. Now, if you've looked at the Great Global Healing Party website, there's a quote there from Rudolf Steiner. And I also have a statement of like a little definition on how I perceive the Christ energy. And I see it as the great overarching evolutionary force of a planetary system. And so that energy comes in at the winter solstice, and it comes down into the depths of the earth, and it comes up and it goes through that ancestral energy. And I think of equinoxes and solstices as being profound times of portals of energy opening and different levels of energy opening and coming in. And so the spring equinox is a very big time for moving ancestral energy and doing ancestral healing. And the June solstice is a big time of doing the heart field of the ancestral healing. When you do healing work, you always work through two levels. You heal the spirit body part, or in this case, our soul group, higher self spirit body, our conjoined universal life one on the human consciousness grid. And then the second layer is you heal the heart field of something that you're working through. So if you've seen the website and you see that quote, I just recently found that looking through Rudolf Steiner's material. He was a very profound man who came and was here in the part of the 1890s, in that time frame into the early 1900s. And he brought forward a very large amount of very beautiful and profound information. And he's the developer of the Waldorf school system for children. Biodynamic agriculture is from him. He has fascinating information about beavers and bees and honey, and a lot of spiritual information and books about developing. So sometimes if I'm looking for information and I can't find anything anywhere, I'll go into his old archives. There's a great resource here in the US called, I think it's the rsvarchive.org. And there's a whole host of free information there that you could give and then do a donation for if you feel inclined. So anyway, so Aliania, who, if you're familiar with this work, is a Pleiadian mother of sound who's bringing this work forward. And her group laid the human consciousness grid and the Christ grid and other grids that are on the earth. And she says that she's the first time that she's put this information up in 3 different areas: the Sedona Journal, the website of the Wonder of Human Design, and on the YouTube series that we're putting out. And she's saying that something profound is happening at the end of this year, that the Pleiadian mothers are moving over from the angelic group that they first worked with when they came into this earth. And at the end of this year, before the winter solstice, they are moving over to the Christ Archangel group for very big, profound reasons. And so I was curious on that, and I ended up finding this quote from Rudolf Steiner that's on the website. And what he said was, toward the end of the 20th century, we're just now into if I'm doing that right, 1900s is the 20th century, and we're in the 21st century, if I'm doing that right. If I'm not, just forgive me. But he had said that there was an office of the cosmic that would be changing to the Christ archangels and doing something very profound. And he's got some explanations in his writings about that. So I'm just going to leave that at that. So we know that we're in a time of profound ancestral healing. We know that we are, for the first time on the earth, able to heal the human consciousness grid, our collective creations as large family groups in our long ago past history, and of tribes and nations, the level that we co-create together as groups. So this work is about us getting together and uniting as one heart and scrubbing that human consciousness grid. So I just wanted to share that with you because this is a profound year of the divine feminine coming into the earth, and it will build and come down into various layers over the next 6 years. Now, Aliani has given some pretty far out channelings on some of the YouTube series that explain how we are one heart and one spirit body at the higher self level on the human consciousness grid, and various other aspects of that. And in that work, she describes that things will come into different layers of the earth when they come in through the, I don't know if it's the divine blueprint or the creator's magnificent way of creating change on earth. I don't know exactly from which it comes, but she says it comes into the planet and then it goes into the greater field where we all have that benevolence, and she calls it the supreme being engine of change is there, and people describe it as the field. And then it will percolate in, and she has said there's been some connections made between that greater field of benevolent creation where we have a soul group, higher self, spirit body there. She says we have 3 of these. And she says some connections have been made from that field into the human consciousness grid. And so over the next 6 years, there's a very large increase of the divine feminine. And how that will feel for us is in our meditations or in our everyday attunements is it'll be a softening of the heart field. There will be a feeling of a softening. And I think that's lovely. And I think we could all use a little bit of that. When you look at it, this world we're in, it's looking a little crazy. And so this healing today is not going to be as long as the very first one in January. That was about 20 minutes. This one will be 10, and I believe that they will all be about 10 minutes now. Because we did some pre-work in that first one and laid some connections and openings so that we can do this work in a more efficient way. So I don't have the comments on, and there's a particular reason for that, because I have to be in a particular state and I can't engage back and forth with us all in the comment section. So I don't mean to not be hearing what you all want to say or the comments you'd wish to make, but I can't engage and be in so many places at the same time. So these great global healing parties look like there will be about an hour as we go forward. We'll get some understanding from the astrology aspect with Carmen Turner Schote, the astrologer. We will get some explanation from my part, and I will explain what we've been healing through this year as we progress, and give you by the December solstice, I will give you the whole viewpoint of what we did and how we were able to scrub the grid in a particular way. And what's happening in the fall equinox healing is the end of a particular segment, and then the solstice is the beginning of something very profound. And so I will build up with that information as we go forward. And then in this great global healing party, Aliania usually comes in and channels and provides information. Then she goes back and we do the sound. I do my work in sound so that you are not sitting there in silence, and it adds a richness and a depth. And some people feel things going on in their energetic spiritual body, which overlays the physical body. It's that picture of the spiritual body with the chakras and an aura around it. And it's actually got another section that's even bigger and wider. And then she usually comes back and gives a little more information. Then I tell you what the healing was about, and then we end. As I said in the January party, I don't tell you what the healing is about and what we scrubbed until the end, because we need, in order to do healing work, we need to be uplifted, in joy, certain of our spiritual abilities to do this work, and we need to be neutral, not in polarity one way or the other, good or bad. And if I describe what we cleared, it can very easily set us into polarity. So I save that for the end so that we can be joyful and uplifted and happy with what we're doing, or joyful is a better word. So I've said what I'm going to say. I could put us into a little guided meditation and do a little intention. You're welcome to add whatever you like within your own being to that. And then I will get out of the way and we have the channeling and the healing. And then I'll see you all at the end. All right, let's get into our sacred space, if you will. And if you want to close your eyes, and if you're a meditator and you're used to just going into that center of your head, go ahead. If this is new to you, sometimes you can get a sense of your nose, get a sense of your forehead, and then gently bring that awareness to the center of your head with your intention. And we want to just imagine we're grounded deep into the center of the earth, that there's a golden cord of light or an anchor in a chain, whatever image works for you. So just something neutral and benevolent. And we're deeply, deeply rooted into the earth. And from my perspective, I have that drop down from the bottom of my torso between the legs and goes straight down into Mother Earth. And then we can imagine we're connected to the cosmic starry space, the cosmic energy, with another gold line that goes out from above our heads outward. And then from our hearts, within that cosmic is another beautiful line. And the ancient symbol of the sun is often used to represent the creative source, the big kahuna, the creator of all, God, whatever word you want to use, supreme being. You can pick your own word, doesn't matter. And now we're connected to that cosmic. And then we get into our heart space and we give gratitude and thanks. And we give that love to the creative source for that loop of love. We love the creator and the creator loves us back. And we ask that we may do healing this day. And I always like to ask that the ancestors of the land we're on and the ancestors of our blood are aligned and in intention and giving their permission for this healing. And I like to ask that I have a big affinity for the Christ energy, that evolutionary source. And I like to ask the Creator to send that Christ energy to us and to come into that in our heart space. You can add anything you like. This is all unique and individual and collectively. And we ask that we may do healing for the greater good of all, and that we be joyful and uplifted in the healing, and we may have the sustaining of the joy of healing. And we ask that we have the joy and peace of healing in thanks. I often forget to say thank you to those angelics and higher creational beings on the other side of the veil who come and do this service work with us. It's like a big chain of love going out for the greater good of all. And I'm going to get out of the way, and let's see what comes forward tonight. Oh, good day to you, dearest beings of light. My name is Alienia of Cosmic Service. I am a Palladian mother of sound. You are welcome to open your eyes and come out of that little meditation and be present so that you receive and get a conscious understanding of your awareness of the information that comes through. If you stay in a meditative state, you can be a little drifty and you don't always hear everything. So there's a time to be inward and meditate, and there's a time to be outward. What we would like to share this day is a little bit more information about the divine feminine that is coming into the earth at this time. This divine feminine energy is indeed something that is part of the great shift. And it is indeed something that is a universal and living energy within all of creation. It is a softening of the heart. It is a tolerance for your fellow man. It is a desire for something better. It is a hope for the greater good and the goodwill toward all. It has a flavor of, oftentimes people will call it the Mother Mary energy, the divine feminine Sophia, the divine feminine that both men and women have. Some people call it the great overarching evolutionary pattern of benevolent change. It's looked at in many different ways in many different cultures and many different religions. We would like to think of it this day as the other side of a healing force that goes with your universal life energy. As this one said, your universal life energy is the energy that you all share, like you have your individual life force. In your group energy, you have a universal life force that you all create within. So these healings are of the universal life force of your higher selves, which come together on the human consciousness grid to make an overarching, large, higher self, soul group, spirit body. This one had said there are 3 of them that she has learned. One is on the human consciousness grid, one is on what is called an interim grid, and one is out in the greater field. You can think of the interim grid as a grid between the Christ grid of the masters and where your souls are when they first come into this planet, because they are mostly perfect. And it is a grid of change. And it is sometimes called the interim Christ grid, and it is sometimes called the soul creational grid. And it is a grid of change. So you have a spirit body there that of the higher self soul group that changes. And you have one out in the greater field where, as this one described, as we call it, the supreme being engine of change and creation is, and where all of your soul groups are united as one overarching force of this planetary system. For you are deeply enmeshed in the earth and its creation. You are deeply enmeshed in that which happens not only on the earth, in the 3-dimensional world that you see, but in another level called the astral world, where your spiritual emotions and feelings and creating happens, and where many other types of beings in your multidimensional nature that are part of this planet also exist. The best way to think of all of this is that it is an evolutionary creational body of the earth that you are the masters of. So as you evolve and change over the long history of a planetary system, you learn to create in benevolence for the greater good of all, in alignment with the Creator. And therefore, you create a benevolent astral field in the one we spoke about, and you create a more benevolent material 3D reality that you live in. And this happens over millions and millions of years. We are approximately 350 million years ahead of you. But we can tell you that you have created change much faster than we have. You have gotten to this point where you want to create an evolutionary and benevolent world faster than we did. And although you look out at your world now and it seems slightly hopeless, and there are wars that have come up again, and there are people that are acting out of integrity, and there is some greed, and there is some hoarding of resources, and who's going to get the most of those precious metals, and who's going to get the most of those semi-precious metals, and who's going to control this industry and that. It is far, far less of a disharmonious world than ours was. So the reason I am sharing this with you is so that you realize we have not done so badly. We have really not done so badly. And we turned this around in a much shorter time than those who are helping us. And that's a thing to celebrate. So although it may look a little shaky outside in your world, hold within you during these phases that seem so difficult that you have done very well. And hold that you are coming together now in benevolence to clear this human consciousness grid. This one said long ago when she picked up a rock at a mineral gem show and saw a vision through the psychometry of holding objects through your spiritual nature. She had a vision of a man with a knife hitting another man, and the earth was stained with blood. And that is the human consciousness grid memory that she had. And so she said, well, how can you end war when everyone walking on this planet is walking on the memory of war? How can you create benevolent change when you have all of this memory there? Well, you're clearing that memory. And in healing, as she says, you have to take something out to create room for the soul to bring something in. And that is literally what you see when you are clairvoyant. You see energy healing. You see a different color, frequency, vibration, sound, thought, consciousness, emotion leaving. And at the top of your crown, you see a beautiful new light-filled color coming in with a new consciousness, a new emotion, a new feeling, a new perspective coming in. So as a group soul body out in the greater field, your group souls are sending you a new creation at the end of this healing. And you get this healing individually within your higher self that percolates eventually through to you instantly, as well as you're creating this for the greater good of all on the human consciousness grid. So we thank you for your service and realize you are doing a great service by partaking in this small little way. And so when you want to create benevolent change, sometimes it's as simple as intending to be part of something benevolent that is choosing to create change, and as this one says, in a grace-filled way, in a benevolent, grace-filled way. And that's what we wished you to know now. We will go back up. We work with the angelic group that we came in with that she spoke about. We do shift to the Christ archangels for more profound healing after that. And so through this year, you can think of it that both Pleiadian mothers and those who work the grids, who are helping with this healing, for it is more than just us, are scrubbing away some things that they have to scrub up. And the angelic group that went through that creation of a planet and the grids and they've gotten to this point, they're scrubbing a little bit up too. And then everyone's moving to a new potential in the beginning of 2025. And that is amazing and beautiful and sacred and part of the great shift. And when we are done with the healing and all is done, we will come back and we will share a little bit more information. All right. We will see you also on the other side. Okay. And this one sometimes closes her eyes, but we're trying to get her to get used to having them open during the healing. So if you see a little bit of fluttering eyes, it's just her learning curve. So be gentle with her because she is learning a new thing also. All right, dearest beings of light, that concludes the healing. Now, when the voice goes out of tune a little bit, it is because there is a block in the system, and the sound moves the block forward, and eventually the block clears. So whenever you do toning work and the voice goes out of tune, you relish it because you know you have hit a block. So when you heard this one's voice go out of tune in various times, small little sections, more in the middle and a little bit at the end, it was the block that you all were clearing through. There was sadness released, there was grief released, there was things released from ancient times of different ways of looking at the subject she will share with you that you cleared this day. And there was also some celebrations released of the different ways that that block was looked at. So it was from the consciousness level to the thinking or etheric level, if you're familiar with that in energy medicine healing, to the astral or feeling nature. So it worked consciousness, thinking, and feeling. And those were all cleared. This one was in the background going, oh, the voice is very, very low today, the lowest I've heard in quite a while. And she could feel it was the lower chakras, chakra 1, which has a lot to do with survival and the body. And that will make sense when you hear the theme that she will tell you when she returns. What we would like you to know is that in clearing this, even though it might not have been a large group of people, it only takes the intention of 20 people to clear this on the human consciousness grid. And when you get to 25, it's better. When you get to 40, it's even better. When you get to 100, it gets deeper. When you get to a couple hundred, it gets fairly deep. And when you can get over 1,000, 3,000, 5,000, this healing goes down all the way to the center of the earth, is the best way we can say it, where there's layers through the earth that have to do with other kingdoms of nature. And we're going to leave it at that. So even though there was not a huge group here this day, know that it was cleared in you, and you cleared it on the human consciousness grid. You just might have not have cleared it as deeply as some of the other layers within the earth. So that is what we wished you to know this day, and that you are dearly loved, to expect benevolence in all you do. And if you should feel the call, keep coming to the Great Global Healing Party, not only for your individual healing in your higher self, but for the greater good of all. Peace be with you. All right, this is Dr. Wendy Rowley. So I was going to tell you the part about the voice going out of tune, but she took care of that. And sometimes I'm a little forgetful on coming back in on everything I was going to say. But I will remind us that in the first January healing, we cleared the fear of planetary destruction. And I will tell you that in this healing, we cleared the fear of death. You see, there's a theme here in these first 3 healings. And it'll make sense in December when we explain the level that we cleared and what's happening next. So there's clearly a theme going on here. So this was the clearing the fear of death from our ancient Akashic records and from the human consciousness grid. So I am going to probably log off. I thank you for coming. I would like us to give thanks to each other for coming and supporting each other as we heal together, and for supporting the greater good of all as we think of helping others who might not know or want to tune into this thing or might think it's just so weird. Someone sent me an email and said, well, if this is for free, why isn't it just out there on the public web? Well, it's a little odd It's a little bit odd. And I was interested to see some funny shadows in my face here. I felt like I had a beard when I was looking in. And obviously, I need to adjust the lighting, and it's a learning curve, and it's not for everyone. And I didn't know I'd have to go out on the public web and do this. You sign up for a service work, and you never know what it's going to be. So it's a learning curve for all of us. And I thank you for your support and your patience while we get there together. And so the next Great Global Healing Party will be in June. I believe it's also the 20th. It'll be the June solstice. And I'll explain more about that when we get there. I'm going to put updates on the Great Global Healing Party website, and I have a feeling there'll be a channeling section there to refer to that will start, where you can get some of Aliania's work and perspective on what's happening. It's right now, it's in the Sedona Journal of Emergence. It's in the monthly on the Wonder of Human Design website. And there's a series on YouTube that's starting that'll be a little more down to earth and practical. That's called What Can You Do Now in the New Energy for Your Personal Evolution? And that should have some fun stuff in it. I thank you for coming. I thank the higher creational beings of light and the angelics and the creator for this opportunity to make a positive change and to be part of something beautiful and benevolent. And I will see you at the next Great Global Healing Party. Feel free to get into any of the forums on the Wonder of Human Design website and make comments if you want, or email if you need to. And I am there for you if you need to share any experiences. Thank you. Good night.